Hello there everyone, I'm Suzavile and today I'm going to review the Northern Dunedain faction here with King Aragorn II. So King Aragorn starts in a very precarious position. Of course we have Fennes Drunin here and Aemon Sul, but there's not a lot of units on these two initial armies. Mercenaries initially will be a necessity. In terms of settlements, you of course start with very few settlements, no castles, and the enemies nearby, well, that's the only good thing about this faction. There are very easy enemies nearby, as they're both the remnants of Angmar and the orcs of the Misty Mountains. To the south, still, there's going to be Dunland, but don't expect them to cause too much of a fuss initially. In terms of objectives and difficulties, this is very hard faction, one of the hardest probably. They have to destroy the Shadow of Mordor. It's not about the 40 regions that you have to control, it's about the faction that have to destroy this so far away. So it's going to take quite a while. And the path to victory eventually will always lead into Mordor. The initial conquest, then, it's one of the most effective and worthy ones because you have a lot of rebel settlements nearby to conquer, but there will be competition for land grabs, so be sure to take the best settlements for you. In terms of diplomacy as well, you start with two allies in the Greenland and the Shire and the realm of Eladris. Perfect, perfect. This actually eases up the beginning. But you start with four enemies, as the clans of Inuit, the Dunlandings, the Orcs of the Misty Mountains, and the remnants of Angmar are all your foes. Of course, to the south, don't expect too much opposition initially. It should be okay to just clear up one of the Orcish factions before beginning to worry about the southern factions. Units for the Northern Dunedain. As you can see, they include almost every troop type. They have some lumbermen, which are effective against armor, very small units, kind of like peasant-like, but still quite effective, especially against cavalry. The local militia, of course, and you're gonna have some Dunedain wardens. In terms of initial army, the local archers, and the Dunedain rangers will make up most of your forces. You should also try to get some of these Cardolan archers and sentinels and the riders. They're very kind, very good, and they are going to be a good addition to your initial armies since you cannot recruit too many of them. Of course, once you get to the later game, then you have the Arthedain troop line and the Dunedain troop line, which are very powerful. They include one of the most powerful cavalry units here on the Arthedain Royal Guard, of course, and the Arthedain Knights as well. Overall, a very good faction for this game. In terms of units, of course, as I've already said, they have plenty of good options, but most of them are very expensive as well. They have a very medium to high upkeep on all of their units. Of course, they have pretty much every type of unit available, so that's a good strength of the Northern Dunedain roster. As you can see, even the two initial units that you have in terms of cavalry. One of them is a missile cavalry, and the other one is a good charge and a good, decent, heavy cavalry force. Let me just show you as well in terms of the range units. Every single ranged unit is a long-range missile unit, so this is where you're going to spend most of your money initially. Abuse the ranged forces, of course. In terms of barracks, Dunedain wardens will be your basic troop type, as well as the local militia, but you should rely more on the more reliable Dunedain wardens, of course, as you've seen previously. In terms of the castle units, you should also check out because they have the best troops available. Pretty much the elite armies will always come in from your castles as well, although you have some good troops that can be recruited in the cities as well. Let me show you just a few differences here. Oh, in terms of the ranged units, you actually don't have any difference regarding the archery range, so avoid that if possible. You also have the woodland camps for a couple of units, extra units that you may mix. cheap units, especially for the beginning. These will be quite worthy, especially this one with effective against cavalry, effective against armor, and bonus fighting cavalry, and the sharpened stakes. Lumbermen should be a good addition, even just if it's 2 or 3 units. In terms of initial army plus elite army, they have a good amount of archers and militia troops. And the heavy forces will be in the late game, of course, against the forces of Mordor, probably. Generals, of course, will help out immensely, so a few generals plus a couple of good archers should do the trick for the faction of Northern Dunedain. In terms of rate of replenishment, they have a low rate of replenishment and low number of units initially, actually, kind of like the elves, but hopefully you will get plenty of settlements who will be able to produce those units. In terms of buildings and everywhere where you can build up, the capital, of course, will be your main project, but you should ride to the east here just so you can get a Numinous and a Forest Rain nearby. By the way, I hadn't shown initially this
Your
general,
orders, my lord.
which you should abuse because, of course, of the forces that you already have here. Hiring up some mercenaries with this general will also be a good idea initially. Yeah, you
Yes,
also
my
have
lord.
this other general who is just here for, standard scouting purposes. In terms of the buildings themselves, you don't have anything really too exceptional, but you will have good ratio in terms of the relation with the army and the ratio with the castle and city troop types. In terms of the finances, you actually start quite decently, but you cannot field many troops. You don't have actually very good special buildings, and you will certainly need growth because of the low amount of population in each of your cities. In terms of agents, you will get the most out of them if you start immediately with the diplomat to sell maps. Spies are very useful as well for the early land grab and to check out who is going to be the most annoying enemy initially. Of course, the best spots for spies are actually near the capital, over to the north and to the east, even on the four directions. Actually, you should check out as well how is going on Moria and on the Orcs and Misty Mountains cities, as well as you should also keep a small eye here on the south. Just one spy can almost control this whole area so that you are not surprised on your capital. Do remember that in terms of the diplomats, you actually have 3 spots. You should go on this west direction, you should go to the south, and to the west. The assassins, they are very good to ease up the tasks, either to sabotage and to assassinate. You should be able to sabotage a couple of good buildings, such as the troll production facilities from the orcs. That would certainly be an interesting approach to using your assassins. Remember, you can actually start with 1 due to the Fenestrunen capital already having the necessary building for it. So it's time to review this faction. Their strong points, of course, plenty of rebel settlements around all this area is pretty much just rebels lying around so that you can actually conquer them. In terms of the other good aspects, they actually have one of the best generals immediately available, so this King Aragorn is almost unbeatable in the beginning. They have some good archers and very good late game army, as you've seen. The weak points, of course, are that they start with very few settlements, few units, and a very complicated start. The good point is that, of course, you have Aragorn on your side, which is a very good general, by the way. 10 star with 10 respect and 10 authority. This is just awesome general here. There's in terms of buildings and some unit synergies, there's not a lot of synergies, although you could use some good growth buildings over here, and you should inspire your armies with a couple of extra added armor on them. That should ease up since you have so many militia troop types. In terms of the time to victory, of course, it's going to be a very long time to victory because you still have to destroy the Shadow of Mordor. The Remnants of Angmar, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's one of the initial foes that you have, but of course, it's going to be very tricky. And you can include, of course, some betrayals, possibly against the elves or even against Bree. Who knows? Overall, there's a it's possibly one of the hardest factions to play. Has a very good late game, and a very bad start position. Enjoy!